It's the Pikey and Alex Show, Talking Taipans. With Chris Pike and Alex Loughton, we come to you with everything that is 100% Taipans. Let's go. It's Talkin Taipans.
Hello and welcome to another week of Talkin Taipans. It's the Pikey and Loughz Show, and we're here to talk everything Cairns Taipans in the NBL, and we're now coming towards the end of the NBL Cup. 2 more games to go in Melbourne for the Taipans, and 2 huge games as well, which we'll get to come this weekend against the New Zealand Breakers and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. And we've got some games to look back on as well, including a really good win against a pretty talented Sydney Kings team, and then a game against the Adelaide 36ers as well. So plenty to get through on another edition of the Pikey and Loughz Show. I'm one half of it, Chris Pike. The other half, the Cairns Taipans legend himself, Alex Loughton. How do I find you this week, Loughz?
Hey, g'day, Pikey. I'll tell you what, these games are coming really fast. It's hard to keep up with them all. Just one game after the other, which is great for basketball fans. Not so great if you got a family and a full-time job and you're trying to hold everything together. So if you can find some spare time to watch some hoops, I'm just restricted to kind of the highlights for the most part and the short and mini games. But it's certainly there's a couple of games to forget there from the Taipans. So we'll brush over those 2 20-point losses pretty quickly. But certainly that Sydney Kings win, a big win for the club, and just not a great showing against Adelaide. But certainly looking forward to probably the end of the Cup like the players are, and maybe get some home games back on home soil.
This episode of the Pikey and Loughz Show is proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life. And Statton's Plumbing Company. Plumbers who care.
Well, I think there's a trip to Perth in straight after that, so that's hardly ideal. But after that, hopefully we can get back home. So right now, the way we're situated, Loughz, the overall season, the Taipans, we're 4-10 at this point. It's not quite all doom and gloom, because as we're situated, we've got 22 games to go in the season, so a long way to go to turn it around. But at the NBL Cup, a record of 2-4 so far, 14.5 points to be sitting in last place. How do you feel about things right now with these 2 games in Melbourne to go to finish things off?
Well, I definitely feel that the Taipans have found themselves on the second, the lower pack. That's that front pack is breaking away a bit more, and it's a bit of danger territory. They've sort of held on with a couple of those narrow wins to just keep the light on. But they've really got to find their straps if they're going to make a go of it for this season. So definitely a lot of basketball left, but certainly it's they're making things pretty difficult for themselves for a top 4 finish in terms of how they've been playing. So it's an interesting one, because you've got superstars in Oliver and Machado, but you can certainly see the body language of Oliver just taking its toll a bit. And there's been a lot of talk around the league, players sort of missing their families and things like that. And I certainly think that's the case in this, or it's part of it. But certainly, it's something to talk about. How is this NBL Cup actually affecting the players? What are your thoughts on what you've seen at the NBL Cup? Is it do the rich keep getting richer in terms of the teams winning on a high? It's fueling good vibes, and if you're on the losing side, is it amplifying the losses? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. It's really tough to turn it around, and you've talked about it before on the show. The toughest part is that the only time you get to really have some fun is when you get to head out to the basketball court. So you don't really have much time to train. So the games are the time to have some fun right now, because the rest of the time they're stuck in the hotel room. They're really not allowed to go out and do much at all because of the restrictions placed on them. If they could go out, there's a couple of players have sent some photos of the area in Melbourne around them, sort of the Docklands area and around there, and there's not much going on. Sort of the city centre in Melbourne, the CBD's kind of shut down in a lot of ways because of COVID still, even though it's supposed to have opened up. So there's not a lot for them to do. So all they can do is look forward to the games.
Is there any chance for positive vibes though coming from a win, or at least decent play?
That's what we thought. We hoped that the Sydney game might have turned things around, because coming into that, the 22-point losses was clearly deflating. The 2 20-point losses in a row against Perth and Brisbane. But they had a few days to freshen up a little bit, and I think work on some things. And the way they came out against Sydney was fantastic, because the Kings have been playing good basketball. And then to back up against Adelaide 2 days later, it was an Adelaide team without Isaac Humphries. So it was a real chance for Oliver and Jawai to dominate that game, I felt like, but at no point were they able to. So they just couldn't get anything going. And I thought there was a chance to build momentum. I thought if you could have got 2 wins last weekend, everything could have looked a lot rosy. But unfortunately, I think the loss to Adelaide probably put a dampener on things once again.
Yeah. So just a missed opportunity maybe for this one. They've got to turn the page quickly. Obviously, 2 games come at Wednesday and Friday, as you mentioned just before. I will say this. I mean, as a player going on the road, let's say you're coming from your family situation. So you've got your partner, you've got your kids, and a lot of your life is around that balance of spending time with your family. When you have a road trip, it's often, let's say a 2-day road trip. It's probably just enough time to get a really good sleep on the road. Play your game, play your heart out, and then you're coming back home a little bit refreshed, if I'm to be honest. And then you come home, and then you've got energy for your family, and then it's back to hanging out again. But if you're on the road just consistently for so many days, I mean, this is 3 weeks now, and your family's not there with you, and you can't go out and just have coffee anywhere and decompress a bit, it's really going to take its toll. And I agree that Oliver would be struggling without having the family there. I think that he's also very young. I always forget that he's only 24 years old. Like the maturity level of someone in their 30s and been around the block a few times, they're going to have some things to go to, some tools in their toolbox to mentally freshen up and kind of do all that. I mean, for Oliver, he's still learning. Back
to last year when he talked about how happy he was and how much he was loving life in Cairns, he would never go through a conversation without talking about his family and how important it was to have his family with him. He had his. And
they're always by his side, always by his side. So, I mean, I have no doubt it's it's probably struggling to be able to find that balance and find that connection because they're so far away. I'm not sure if they're in Cairns or if they're back in the States. But either way, I mean, 3 weeks away down in Melbourne is going to take its toll. Having said that, part of being a professional is still being able to deliver your performance. I mean, players suffer adversity all the time. I mean, it's not publicised a lot, but I mean, you're going to have mental challenges and you're going to have times when the going gets a bit tough and you've got to still fight that and stay engaged. I guess he's been criticised by like Liam Santamaria and all those guys at NBL Overtime, just sort of being a bit lax. Shane Heal as well mentioned it. He's just a bit lazy on defense kind of thing, just kind of not fully in it. Like you can see something's weighing on his mind. So they've noticed that. But you've got to be able to sort of check that at the door, I guess, and as best you can. Still deliver your performance and have that buy-in. But I mean, you're talking about losses are going to get you down a bit as well, and being able to turn the page after a loss, that's another mental toughness side of things that you really, as all the players have to work on throughout their career, and you get better at it as you get older. But certainly when you're younger and you're losing games, you kind of drop your head and the body language falls down, and that's where each of the players to a man and the captains and coach and all that. Can try and rally and pick themselves up a bit, but constant blows, it's gonna wear you down a bit. So they're certainly in that mode where it's just sort of hanging on an edge. They're hanging in there. I know they're bottom of the ladder in the cup as well as in the overall ladder. But there's a few wins there just to keep the light on. As I said, it's not doomsday at the end of the season by any stretch.
We're not even halfway through.
But it's certainly
remember that.
Yeah, well, 22 more games. There's certainly a chance. There's opportunity there for players to step up, and maybe this is a turning point for Mojave King.
Yep.
Maybe he's able to relax into that role and actually really be aggressive. He needs to be, and he hasn't delivered so far. But maybe with the season going the way it is, it can't get any worse. So maybe this is the time where you can sort of brush off the shoulder, brush the dust off the shoulders and kind of all pick themselves up and almost press reset. But maybe it's going to become at the end of this cup that they get that opportunity to kind of exhale and then move forward.
I want to go back and look at especially the Sydney game. But before we do, and we'll preview these games in a bit more detail before we end the show, but how important are these last two games now, starting Wednesday against New Zealand and then Friday against Southeast Melbourne? Is it important to not lose two more games on the way to finishing things in Melbourne?
Look, if they can, they're 2-4 right now, so they've got two more games.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you can walk away going 4-4 in the cup, then at least you're kind of still within reach of, having a bit of a springboard into that second sort of 2/3 of the season. So, I mean, I think a really strong showing with the positive lining that you're about to get out of there. I think that'll be a good motivation just to finish on a bit of a high and get out of Dodge and then come and reset. But look, tough sort of games. I mean, New Zealand just poured on the points in that one game by 40.
Against Adelaide,
against Adelaide, getting a ton, but. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, they've had a few sort of a bit of a mixed bag. So, how long is Sykes out for? I wonder.
I've actually got some news for you later in the show. So when we get to that preview later in the show, I'll have a chat about why that Phoenix game might be worth tuning in for, but it might be about to get a little bit more difficult for the Taipans at the same time.
Is he coming back for that game? Is he?
It might not be just him, so we'll save it for later in the show. But we've got to give everyone something to look forward to, Loughz.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Well, let's proceed with that Sydney game.
Well, it was a really important performance because it was coming off those 20-point losses, 2 in a row. But it was a tough game because Sydney had been playing pretty well, but there was so much to like about it. And what I liked about the performance by the end of the game was the fact that we saw Cam Oliver and Scott Machado not have to do everything. They could almost take the role of passengers because so many other guys stepped up hugely. And how could you not be happy for Nate Jawai to see him play the game that he did? I mean, he's shown glimpses this season that he can still do this, but for him to dominate a game like this, and he still only played 15 and a half minutes, but every time he caught the ball, he was absolutely unstoppable. He caught it in the right spots. He was confident enough to make the move, and the Sydney defenders had no answer for him. So whether it was Craig Moller, who's massively undersized, or Jordan Hunter or Tom Vidanovic, who were trying to defend him, they just had no hope. So he just pushed them out of the way, and his touch was well and truly on song. So he had that finishing touch, and as a result, he shot the ball 10 of 12, which was fantastic. And he just looked so crisp, and he passed the ball when he could as well to set up some shooters. But before we get to anything else, the performance of Nate Jawai was I think it gave everyone a huge lift, not just in the Taipans, but everyone across the league. I think was really, really happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome to see. And then, you check that minutes column, you're like, man, he was efficient, 22 and 15 and a half minutes, as you mentioned. He's got a good sort of vision for the court when he does catch in the post. So still able to dish out 3 assists. Just a really solid performance. And as you mentioned, it was the helpers that really provided the big sort of scoring punch that, just alleviated that pressure off Oliver and Machado. So with Fab getting a double-double, just really provided confidence for coach to, really be able to, use him a lot more. And I think with Nate, though, he was a sign to himself as well that, he can still do this. He can still perform, and he's a unique player if he's used in the right way. And certainly a lot of these possibly taller guys in the league, but they give up on sort of size and weight and stuff. So he's able to just bully his way to the rim and just finish with nice soft hands and get to the free throw line if he at a pretty high clip. So just a brilliant performance by Nate Jawai and winding back the clock. But I think deep down he knew he's still got some good basketball left in those legs.
Check out the plus minus as well. This is amazing. Nate had plus 22 for the game, and Cam Oliver had minus 17. So it was when Jawai was on the floor that the Taipans were able to pull away.
Yeah, look, I mean, he was such a big presence, and then they threw everything at him. But Jawai was just able to outwork them and outposition them, and they just couldn't stop him. So physically, he gets himself in the right position. And then, like I said, has a good court vision, court awareness. And, if they did go to the double team, he was able to find them. But, just a great game and just one that you just want to see happen again and again. Like, even if it's just 15 minutes, use that consistently, each game if it works out, just so that it gives you that different look. Sometimes it's just about giving the opposition something different. Certainly there's no one really defensively that can guard him one-on-one. No, so, I mean, you have to send 2 at him.
The other thing I really liked, or one of the other things, was and you touched on it already, the performance of Fab Krslovic. I mean, career highs right across the board. 15 points was a new career high. 10 rebounds, a new career high. The 4 steals was a new career high. Stepping up in the absence of Majuk Deng. A really good performance and a much needed performance because, you just can't let Cam Oliver have to do everything, and for him to show that he can still deliver that and play 33 minutes as well, just so much to like about what he did.
Oh, mate, 100%. What's not to like? 100% from field goal, 100% from 2, 100% from 3, 100% from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, 4 steals. Like, come on. Like, this is that's awesome. It's really encouraging to see Fab step up and certainly, much needed in Majuk Deng's absence. And one of those coach confidence boosters, you're looking for rotations, you're looking for combinations that can get it done. And Fab's, I guess, drawn the eye of, the fans recently, even before these games, they're saying, questioning his performance as well. He's definitely answered that with some pretty serious numbers. Even the last game against Adelaide, able to be consistent as well. So I think it's good for Fab in his own confidence as well, that he can, he is earning his spot on this stage. He's always sort of been more around that 10th or 11th player. Well, he's now bumped up to the 6th. Most efficient provider of the scoring for the Taipans. So he's certainly bumped up the list in terms of his production for the club. So I like it. I like the steady gains, and I like where he's at right now.
Rebounding hasn't been a strong suit this season either for the Taipans, but in this game it was much better, especially on the offensive glass, especially in the first half, I think. But for the whole game, they still had 12 offensive rebounds, 24 second chance points. So that means, if my maths is right, every time they got an offensive rebound, they scored from it. That's just crucially important. And it's one of those things that is just an effort type area, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, just an effort area. And some players have it, and some players go, I'm not gonna bother with that because I've got unbelievable athleticism or something along those lines. But those players are, the coaches just love them because they do give you such a huge boost. And in a numbers game, 24 points off those second chance efforts, it's going to get you wins. Like, it's as clear as day, obviously, with being able to have players give you that boost. It's going to help you out down the stretch for sure.
Yeah, so there's so much to like about it. Now, before we move on to the Adelaide game, and maybe we can hear from Mike Kelly and Fab Krslovic in a second as well, but did you feel like, I mean, we've asked this a couple of times, or maybe more than a couple of times this season, did you feel like this was a turning the corner type performance, or how did you feel looking back to last Thursday night after this game?
Well, when I look about the bench contribution, I'm looking for 25 points or more. They hit 29, and that's with Fab in the starting 5. Yeah. So, if someone can step up each time and just provide, a super performance, a bit of an X factor kind of thing. I don't care who it is. If it's Natai, get it done for, 18 points in that game or 16 points in the game. Just give a huge boost. If it's Jawai for one game, maybe it's 16, 18, 20 points. If they can give those kind of that scoring punch off the bench, it just goes a long way. They've got to look after the rock, so you've got to be under that 13 sort of turnover mark, which they did. So they looked after the ball. They shared the ball around as well. 14 assists, you probably want a few more on that side of things. But, for the most part, they took care of business. So, I think Sydney Kings were stunned on this one. Certainly, they were expecting perhaps an easy win or a solid win, So I think they've had to recheck things as well. But, for the Taipans, you really wanted this game to move into an Adelaide win, especially without the second import there at Adelaide. But, it wasn't to be. But the post-game a press conference. There's certainly some details in there that I thought were telling for what could be in the future for the Taipans here this season.
Mike, Nate really wound back the clock tonight. What can you say about his performance?
Yeah, Nate was clutch for us. I loved the kind of the spirit that he came out to play with, and it translated to getting buckets and good combination. He's been good. He's been rounding into form, and tonight he was really big and we wouldn't have won without his great contribution.
Yeah, John, just on Nate coming on pretty early there, Cam was taken off. What was the reason behind that? Cam came off a lot earlier in the first and third than I guess what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, we're really trying to keep everybody on the same page, and so Cam missed a training session with just a little bit of a flu yesterday, and Nate was ready to go. So I thought Nate was on the same page as the group early. Cam was not, and so he came off. Nate came on and played really well. Great thing was Cam came back in with strength and with a good attitude and helped our team. So these guys, they're not stressed on. Well, they don't tell me they're stressed on starting or who's playing minutes. They all want to play, but they all cheer for each other. And Nate's been doing that all year, and it was his time to shine tonight.
That offensive effort that we saw tonight, I guess, hitting Nate often regularly, is that something that we're going to see more of? It looked like you guys relied a little bit less on those 3-point shooting than what we usually see. Yep.
As long as Nate can shoot it at 83% the rest of the season, he's going to see it every time we come down the floor. Now, he's always a great target for us. And then tonight when he got rolling, the guys felt great about it, and we tried to run some simple stuff that ended up with a look for Nate, and he made hay.
And the bloke sitting next to you had a very good night out as well. We spoke about him earlier this week, but again, talk about his growth and I guess how it feels seeing that performance tonight.
Yeah, you might have jumped the gun a little bit the other night talking about how good he was, but tonight he was really good. He got us going and really kind of put us in the right direction in that first half. I don't know how many offensive rebounds he had, but he was really alive and really active. And he always plays smart, but he made big plays today and made some shots and rebounded the ball really well. So, I expect big things from Fab, but tonight he was outstanding.
And Fab, how does it feel after that night? I think it was a career night with rebounds and points. How does it feel to, I guess, have a performance like that?
Yeah, no, it was good, but I wasn't trying to force anything too much. Just kind of let the game come to me, and I think this happened early. Just put myself in good positions to get offensive rebounds, and I think I got myself a couple opportunities there, and then just settles the nerves a bit and get the confidence going, and just playing basketball from there. So nothing. It feels really good after, but it feels better getting a win.
Okay, Loughz, that was Mike Kelly and Fab Krslovic after the win against the Kings, especially focusing on the performances, as we did, of Nate Jawai and Fab Krslovic. What's your reaction to what they had to say?
Well, Coach Kelly's really tuning into the attitude of the players, and the players that have made a conscious decision to be upbeat and really locked in, they're gonna get the minutes. So Coach Kelly's obviously been impressed with how Nate's been leading the team, even from the sideline, I guess, in terms of his sort of attitude and all that, and was rewarded on that game. And I think it'll be a good sign for future games when he's upbeat and not sort of head down. If he's visually up and around and pumping the players, just with little hits of good vibes, then it makes him feel better about leading into a game. So his performance, I guess what Coach Kelly was saying is it was a reflection of how he prepared for the game. And I know he said Oliver was perhaps a bit ill with the flu, but even then Cam was able to switch gears and hold on to the coattails of the group that was getting it done with that positive energy, and then he re-engaged back into the game. So I think it's pretty telling that's what Coach Kelly's looking for. And certainly with when you're down a player, you need everyone to rally. And so with Fab having such a great game, he felt really good about that, and he should. Absolutely, he should. It's about being in the right position, and like you said, it's just an effort thing. It's so much as an effort thing for getting those loose balls and rebounds. For him to hit the shots, that's skill. Like, don't get me wrong about that. But for him to be in the right position, to be in those effort areas and be in the right spot, it's just a great sign. So really good to hear about those two guys, and certainly hear Fab positive about the future games.
Question without notice, Loughz. Two-part question, actually. How did you find doing the post-match press conferences, and how would you find doing it this year where there's actually no one there in person to ask the questions? It's done through a computer screen.
It's a Zoom call.
Yep.
You just do what you got to do. They weren't exactly the high octane, adrenaline fueled action things that you have to go through, but it's certainly something you got to check the box nonetheless. I don't know if there's any other way to make it more exciting. So might just have to, as fans of hoops, you might just have to rely on us to pick out the good bits and deliver it to you in truncated form. But it would be a tricky one.
Yeah, I've always just wondered how it felt from a player's point of view sitting there through them. I don't think I've ever actually asked anybody.
Yeah, no, it's great when you have a win.
Yep.
Not so great when you have a loss and you got to explain and try and find the right sort of way to stay positive and upbeat. But look, sometimes you got to tell it how it is. If you lay an egg, then you lay an egg. But if hopefully you're going to be on the other side of that and saying, look, we had a great team performance and everyone was upbeat and everyone was in the groove. So
So straight after that, it was time to get ready for the Adelaide 36ers game on Saturday. First time playing the 36ers this season. First time up against your old coach, Connor Henry. Now, if you were playing still, Loughz, and you saw an Adelaide front court that consisted of Daniel Johnson, Keanu Pinder, and Jack McVeigh, you would have been licking your lips, wouldn't you?
Yeah, look, apart from Daniel Johnson, you'd probably be feeling confident against McVeigh and Pinder. But, they certainly got busy and got it done. And I guess credit to Adelaide, they dug deep and found a way to get the win. So unfortunately for the Taipans, they're left sort of licking their wounds after a game that really should have been a win.
Was it a missed opportunity inside? Because if you have a look at it, at least on face value, you have Nate dominate the game 2 days earlier, and then Adelaide's missing their starting centre, Isaac Humphries, who has been, a bit of an intimidating force when he's been playing this season. Take him out of the lineup. It's a really small and not a deep, front line there from Adelaide, and you've got Cam Oliver there as well. Was it a missed opportunity to not exploit that further, or if you watch the game, did Adelaide actually do a very good job of not letting themselves be exploited?
Yeah, look, it's not a great time to drop a game like that, and let's call it an off night or whatever, but you just can't have those at this stage of the season. Everything's sort of on a knife's edge. Definitely an opportunity wasted, and the game's in quick succession. You feel like the mood of the team could be on a knife's edge with, when things don't start to go, when things go against them. How quickly can you remain upbeat and positive? It's probably one of those things where, the threes weren't falling. The twos are, in the low 30s in terms of percentage. It was really hard pushing the wagon up the hill, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And why does Daniel Johnson love playing against this Cairns team so much? He had his career high, 38 points last season. He had 30 points again on Saturday. Why does he have so much fun against the Taipans?
Well, he has an ability to draw fouls,
Yep.
And when you go to the line for 10 free throws, you've got the refs on a string on a platter. They're really eating out of your palm. I'm not going to say that he was working the refs or anything, but the way he plays with the up fakes and unders and getting contact and then flailing a bit, like he sells it, and he's done it well for so many years. Some teams you can have your bogey team where you just. It's just an enigma where you don't play well against them. Well, he's got the opposite of that. I guess he sees the Taipans and just goes, oh, that's right. I had a 30-point game last time. I reckon I'll do one of those again. But maybe it just doesn't line up well with defensively. How do you sort of guard the 6'10", 6'11", with all the crafty moves and the still ability to hit the outside J, even though he only went 1 for 4 from the 3. But, he just does lick his lips, doesn't he, against the Taipans?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, you know him as well as anyone. You spent a lot of years, with your one-on-one battles. But we're here to talk about the Taipans, obviously. There were still positives. I really liked what Mojave King provided. Hit 3 3-pointers when he came on. So I think 2 of them late in the first quarter, then he hit another one early in the second. And then when he came back on in the second half, because he was making his shots, Adelaide had to close out pretty hard on him to make sure he wasn't getting those 3-point looks. And that dunk at the end where he drove around his defender and had the big two-handed finish with the dunk was impressive. That was his best performance for mine, so there was something to take out of the game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Mojave King really came to life in this game and took his opportunity. And that's what we want. We want him to be aggressive and take the opportunity. And he certainly did on that night. So even NBL Overtime are sort of criticising his rotation coming in. Like he needs to be given more minutes. Just give him more minutes.
You have to earn it, don't you?
It's got. I think so too. You got to earn it. And they're saying, oh, he played so well in the preseason. He did have a couple of games in the preseason, but that's when he got a bit shy, and that's when we started to see him not take the opportunity, not be aggressive. So then his minutes dwindled down. But all the commentators was in NBL Overtime would be saying he just needs to be played more minutes. He's not in there to he's not a next star to not play minutes. Well, I think that it's you do earn your minutes, and you've got to. It's got to be on the player to be aggressive and take the opportunities, and that'll get you more minutes. It's not. I don't think it's the other way. Even with the Hawks last year with LaMelo Ball, and I think Brooks was starting the games, and he went down with an injury, but he was averaging 20 and 25 points a game, and it wasn't until kind of Brooks went down that LaMelo really had the opportunity to have no one subbing in for him. He had no sort of competition at all, like no one sort of taking his minutes away. So he made the most of it, obviously.
Especially against Cairns, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I was there. But I mean, for Mojave King, there's players that are capable of taking the minutes away from him. So he's got to fight, and he's got to tooth and claw for production and for minutes. So. I think it's it'll either make him tougher and make him be more assertive and more aggressive, or he can be shy and not get to where he wants to go at the end of the season. So I hope that with 22 games to go and the performance that he's put in against Adelaide, maybe the chips are down enough for the team that he could really grasp on. Look, there's nothing to lose here. All the pressure's off, basically. The pressure was on early, and he was a bit shy. Maybe with the pressure off, maybe it's time to loosen the shackles a bit mentally and just unleash. And let's just see what he can do. Like that little jab step, fake, and then baseline dribble to the two-hand throwdown. That was tasty. Like that was tasty. I want more of that. And I wanted to splash threes from outside. I don't think he's a natural sort of shooter, but he can certainly knock them down. But his game is that transition game that take you off the one-on-one sort of dribble. That's the kind of game where you get to the rack and then make things tough. He's got that kind of almost Abercrombie boings. Yeah. He's got that bunny athleticism. So if he can get on the rim, it'd be a huge help for this club, and especially bringing points off the bench. Just to beef up that bench contribution would be huge.
Okay, so we were feeling good after the Kings game. 2 days later, we're not feeling as good. So a few days later, how do we reflect on that Adelaide game, and what do we learn from it, and how do we put some things in place to turn things around to start with against the Breakers now on Wednesday night?
Look, I think physically, the chips are down a bit. They were, coming off that big win against Sydney and just unable to just get the energy up and get up and about. I mean, maybe Coach Kelly is on to something there in a big way, where he needs guys giving energy and being being kind of locked in terms of their preparation for the game. Maybe he needs more guys with that Jawai attitude of that Sydney game, just to have at least enough enough players bringing the juice in that preparation where they start the game really strong and then they're not sort of getting the tail between the legs and dropping the bundle early. Maybe they can get that good start and really hold and retain. So maybe it is an attitude thing where it's hard, it's tough. You know, the bottom of the ladder, finding ways to be upbeat from the younger guys can be pretty tough. Maybe the older guys got to rally and sort of show them the way with that maturity and determination to not let the season slip any further. So certainly looking for, I guess, answers for the club to latch onto something. And with the light still on, it's not too late. Like you said, 22 games left. I've seen teams get on a tear. I've been in situations where my team's got on a tear late in the season. Things can happen, and injuries can happen in other teams, and you never know what the situation unfolds. So you've just got to keep going and try and find that groove. Progress solid.
This episode of the Pikey and Loughz Show is proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio, less pain, more life, and Statton's Plumbing Company, plumbers who care.
And in terms of the Breakers, last time we saw them was that last home game, and they were pretty much down and out, we thought, after that game. It was a big win for the Taipans, so the Snakes were able to head to the NBL Cup in Melbourne on a high, but the Breakers are actually playing some pretty good basketball now. The Webster brothers are playing better and playing more efficient. They're probably taking better shots, and their numbers are improving. Their big man, Calder Iverson's now playing better. Delaney and Abercrombie, we know what they're capable of. Unfortunately, they're probably hitting some form as the Taipans take them on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, only lose to Melbourne United, second on Melbourne United second on the ladder. They only lose by 3 points, so they are finding form. They had that, massive 40-point W only games before, so they're a bit of a danger team right now, and they're a bit loose, and they're kind of playing pretty free. It's heavy rotations from their starters, obviously. So not a whole lot coming from the bench, but as you mentioned, Iverson in the middle, he's a big body. He's a huge unit, actually. Yeah. He's just a solid big guy, just able to, get the finishes that guards are setting up. But they've got to do a job on just shutting down. Obviously, Ty Webster's been the real danger. If they can limit his easy looks, I mean, 80% from three that last game, 4 out of 5. Oh, he's pretty solid, actually. Like I kind of like him as a player and what he's been able to do. But they've certainly found a bit of a groove, and they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on coming, aren't they?
Absolutely. And then Friday night, it's the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So it's a home game for the Phoenix. It's the last game for the Taipans at the NBL Cup. And you mentioned Kiefer Sykes earlier, their import point guard. There's probably more than a 50% chance he'll return for that game. So that sets up a fascinating matchup for him with Scott Machado. But the big news for the Phoenix is that Ryan Broekhoff, a former NBA player, probably will be an NBA player again, a hell of a shooter, a great scorer, a boomer, an Olympian. He's going to make his debut for the Phoenix, and it just happens to be against the Taipans.
Oh, that sounds just delightful, doesn't it? Let's hope he didn't pack his 3-ball from the NBA. Maybe it's still on the carousel somewhere. But no, he's obviously a huge talent, and great to have him in the league. And certainly Sykes is, I think, was an upgrade from maybe Robertson from last year.
Especially because he plays both ends.
Just being a bit more all round. Obviously Robertson a lot better shooter for sure. But I think Sykes really helps them, changes the look of Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. But yeah, look, Broekhoff's going to do Broekhoff such things. Maybe they'll take a few games for the Phoenix to find their combination that, in their roles. So maybe there's a bit of unsettling sort of shuffle there. So maybe the Taipans could, make the most of that they're already well attuned to how each other plays and where they're going to. So, I think they've got to focus on themselves, the Taipans, and not sort of worry about the newspaper headlines of these players, rejoining them again. But certainly you want to finish on a high at the Cup, and no better way to go out than to get a solid W against one of the home teams.
How are you feeling coming into these 2 games in 3 days? Are you feeling nervous, confident, excited? How's Loughz feeling about it?
Oh, I think you've got to get the sour taste out of your mouth of the Adelaide loss. I think there's been a few days to recover. I would just be thinking about the New Zealand game and just throwing everything we got at that one. And then when it's time to think about Phoenix, then we'll think about it then. But certainly this New Zealand game is crucial. They're only playing 5 players pretty much, maybe 6 players. The Taipans have got greater depth. If they can just wear them out that way and defensively do a job on the Webster brothers, it'd just be a huge boost just to run them into the ground a bit. And then you can lock and load against the Phoenix team with a bit of confidence. So yeah, it really depends on, or it really is a focus on the New Zealand thing and nothing else.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, have we got an update in our MVP tracker, Loughz, thanks to Cairns Total Physio? I know that the leaderboard's pretty tight, especially with Machado and Oliver up front. So from the Sydney win, have you got the votes handy there? Yeah,
absolutely. So Oliver's taken the lead here with 23 MVP votes, and trailing him only slightly is Machado on 21. But here's the interesting part. So Noi is on 8 club MVP votes, but we're starting to see some players step up. So Jawai, after that Sydney game, got the 3 votes for Cairns Total Physio. So players are starting to lift a bit. I've got Krslovic on 7 MVP votes, Jerick on 7. So they're really only, it's sort of telling a story, I guess. The players that are kind of starting to creep into that top 3, which is great to see. But certainly, Oliver got a lot of big W's early, so he got a lot of 3 votes for the game in those early games. But Machado's certainly been so solid. Machado's assists are up like 1.5 assists more this year than last year. This guy's a machine.
And last year was a record-setting season already.
And he's getting more attention this year. Yeah. So, the teams are throwing everything at him. So, he's been a consistent performer, Machado, but Oliver's certainly shown some highlights thrown in there. So, it's great to see the MVP tracker and just to see who's sort of creeping up in there. And, even Nartai's had a bit of a purple patch for a couple of those games. And I did see a throwdown dunk, the one-hand leaner. Oh, dear. It was a little tasty leaner, throwing it down with the one hand. And Crocker said, "No, I don't want a piece of it." So he didn't contest. But hopefully we see Krslovic continue his form. But certainly Noi to keep putting out that 12 points a game and really helping the Snakes from that starting 5 unit.
Absolutely. So thank you to Cairns Total Physio for that. Thanks also to Staddon's Plumbing Company for making the Pikey and Loughz Show possible. It's been a lot to get through in the NBL Cup, so I hope you have enjoyed us breaking it down for you here. Everything to do with the Cairns Taipans on the Pikey and Loughz Show. I'm Chris Pike, and I'll wrap it up for another week and leave you with the wise words of old Loughz, Alex Loughton.
Old Loughz. I like what you've done there with the words. It really sounds prestigious. Taipans need the support right now. They need the fans just to lock in, give them their support, really follow the guys, and it's been a tough situation down there. The players away from their friends and family and unable to even have that balance, of being able to get out in a bit. It's a tough situation mentally. And certainly they're doing the best they can. So we'll cheer the lads on from afar, and we can't wait to see when they come back to Cairns for a home game after the NBL Cup.